Hey smart people, Matt DeMayo back with you for part 2 of my very best tips on how to spell hard words. English can be hard, but let me help you make it a bit easier. You know, because English was developed from a whole bunch of different languages, none of the rules about pronunciation apply all the time. In fact, I'm going to use that point to show you that I can prove the word goatee can be pronounced fish. So let's take a look at common problems with being able to determine words that are spelled with ANT at the end versus ENT at the end. So the first one we have here is combatant. Well, if you'll notice, once again, we have a combination of two words. We have a combat ant. And you can imagine that ant dressed up like a soldier in military uniform. And so you have a combat ant. That'll tell you that it's ANT, not ENT. And here we have that ant again, but this time that ant is at a picnic. And the ant is eating all of the sweet sticky buns, and that ant is really making a mess of your picnic. But there's an abundant amount of ants all over the sticky buns at your picnic. All right, penitent. All right, so now we have an ENT word, but you'll notice that the last part of the word is tent. So how much did you spend for this tent? Well, I only spent 1 penny. It was kind of a cheap tent. Maybe that's what we were using at the ants with the picnic. Anyway, the penitent, I may be penitent for doing this video, but we only spent 1 penny on that tent. Confident. I am confident that you're going to become a better speller. And now look, it's confident, so I am confident, not E or A. And then we have the word dent. So I'm confident that I can help you make a dent in being a good speller. Once again, all we're doing is we're taking words, looking for patterns within the words, and just like in part 1, where I taught you my grandmother's famous 2 words of advice on how to learn anything and everything faster and better. Now remember, anytime that you can learn anything and everything faster and better and explain it in just 2 words, those are really important 2 words. And if you watched part 1, you know what those 2 words are. Pay attention. You've got to pay attention. And so what happens is people don't pay attention to the words that they have a common problem with spelling. So here, all we're doing is we're making silly images, breaking the words down, looking for patterns, and having a good time. We're entertaining ourselves as we're doing it. Spelling doesn't have to be a drag, as you can see. Now, here's one this is a topic that kind of bugs me a little bit. People that don't know the difference between to, and to. Most people understand this is going to a place. And everybody pretty much understands that that's the numeral to. The one that they have the problem is this one. They don't know when to use it. Well, it's extreme. That's the one that's too far. It's too hard. When you take this class, it's too easy to learn how to spell well. All right, there, and there. All right, so look at this word. We've got the word here. And there. So here and there. So this indicates direction. This one, again, you see another word in the middle of it. We have an heir. So it's possessive. So an heir, they're going to inherit it. So you can see the word within the word. So this one lets you understand that it is theirs. This is the one where people get messed up all the time. And this is simply a contraction for they are. And all you're doing is taking out the A. And you're using this little apostrophe. They are. Just stop and think for a moment. What is it you're really trying to say? Are you giving people direction? Is it possessive? Or is it a contraction for a group of people that are doing something? They are. Principal and principal. Well, the first one here is for the head of your school. He's your pal, the principal. The other one has to do with rules or numerical stuff. It's the principal way we're doing something. Stationary and stationary. Well, the first one means it's an object at rest. So you'll notice over here we've got the AR, at rest. And in stationary, this is letters and envelopes, and you'll see that we've got the E in the middle for envelopes. All right, desert and dessert. Which is which? Okay, well, the desert has a lot of sand. And so we've just got one S, sand. But a dessert has two S's. A sweet snack. By the way, you can see why I wrote this stuff down in advance, because when I have to do it live, it's kind of messy. Capital and capital. So you'll notice we've got the O. Well, you know, when you go to the Capitol, it is a building. And you know, a lot of those, buildings with the Capitol, they have a dome on top, And so there's the dome. And you can if you were looking at the dome from the top, you would see that it kind of looks like a big O. So again, you're simply looking for patterns. Capital is a capital letter, capital idea, and so on. All right, altar and altar. So this one is to change, and this one is a place where you worship. Well, you go to a tailor, and he altered your pants. Well, you hope that he didn't err when he did it, but he made a mistake, and he was very sad about it. And so he offered a bucket of tar on the altar. So altar is what your tailor did when he made the mistake, when he erred, and he went and he offered a bucket of tar on the altar to make amends. Like I said in part one, it doesn't matter whether or not you connect with my silly points, with my silly images. The bottom line is, you've got to make silly images or silly points of your own to come up with your own ideas. I want to further this concept of playing with words and looking for patterns and interesting things that you can do, and some pretty wild observations about words, how they're spelled, and how they're pronounced. So now in this section, let's talk about some of the so-called rules to spelling. A really common one is I before E except after C. Except when Keith, your feisty caffeinated neighbor, got 8 counterfeit beige sleighs from foreign weightlifters and weighed them. It's weird. That's a dozen words that defy the so-called rule. But by the way, most people don't know that there's a second part to that rhyme. The full rhyme is I before E except after C, or when sounding like A, as in neighbor and way. Look, I've got questions, lots of questions, and I'm sure there are answers, but I think that the answers would be just as weird as the questions. For example, here in the United States, we have got 2 states with names that should be pronounced in a similar way but aren't. Kansas and Arkansas. Why isn't it pronounced Arkansas? And that leads me to this one. Why are Zoe and Zoe pronounced the same, but not Joey and Joe? Another thing, is it the S or the C that's silent in the word sent? And talking about silent letters, why is fridge spelled with a D, but refrigerator isn't? And this one has got to be the king of words with silent letters, Q. It's just the letter Q, followed by 4 silent letters in a row. Let's look at a list of words that should rhyme, but don't. Cough, rough, though, through. And yet, for some crazy reason, pony and baloney rhyme. One thing puzzles me. You can drink a drink, so why can't you food a food? Maybe we'll never know. Now, let me prove to you that goatee can be pronounced fish. All right, if we take the sound of GH from the words like cough and rough, we get the F. If we use the sound of the letter O as it's pronounced in a word like women, we get the sound of I. If we take the sound of TI as it's used in words like motion, lotion, potion, we get the sound of sh. And there you have it. GHOTI is fish. Sometimes you just have to keep a good sense of humor when you're learning English. The rules are all a bit wonky, so make up your own when everything else fails. Look for patterns, pay attention, and most of all, stay tuned to my channel. Subscribe if you like what I'm doing. Hit that little bell icon to be notified every time I release a new video, and I will look forward to seeing your smiling faces on my other videos. Everything I teach does take a little bit of work and effort. Always remember that the fastest way to get to the top is to get off your bottom.